Telemetry recovered. Telemetry lost. Transmitter battery low.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Today we are checking out the Taranis X9 Lite. Now, it is a brand new transmitter with a brand new protocol as well by Frsky, and this one has up to 24 channels. It'll come in black, blue, and this white one that we are going to check out here today. So let's take a look at the transmitter. Now, it looks like the Taranis X9D, but a little bit smaller with less switches. So let's go ahead and bring out the X9D and compare. All right, so here they are side by side, X9D Plus on the right and the X9 Lite on the left. As you can see, the size difference is noticeable right away. Now, let's put them sideways, and you can see that the X9D Plus is also a little bit thicker than the X9 Lite, and hence the name X9 Lite. And as well as on the bottom, we see some ports, but the X9D Plus does not have any ports. Now, the X9D Plus has ports in the back. There's the ports in the back, and also the JR external module bay, in which you can also use the pins to do some flashing and stuff like that. So the battery bay, of course, is on the bottom, and this is the original battery that this transmitter came with. I still have the original battery, and the battery bay is very hard to push in and push out. Now, full-size transmitter, full-size gimbals. We got a bunch of switches. We got tons of 3-position switch, momentary switch, and a 2-position switch. Rotary dial knobs, one on the side as well, and the other side. And trim buttons. We got 3 buttons on the right and 3 buttons on the left for your navigation, and power on and off switch where you slide up and slide down to turn off. And also we got the neck strap holder as well. Nice and hefty, full size, nice grip in the back, and it feels like a really nice transmitter. And just about, I think everybody has one of these. So if you don't have one of these, go get yourself one of these, because this is just an awesome transmitter. Now, the only problem I have with this transmitter, I just love this transmitter. I love to fly with it, but the only thing that I dislike about this transmitter is there's no place to put your fingers, supporting fingers, that is. If you are pinching, you will have to put your middle finger and rest it right up here, where there's very close proximity to all these switches, and your second to the last finger, you really can't put it anywhere but next to this switch in the back. And in the back, basically all I'm using is my pinky finger on the back. Some of you might hold your transmitter differently, but that is the way I hold my transmitter when I am pinching. Now, when I was a thumber before, and I still go back and forth thumbing and pinching, when I am thumbing, I am holding my transmitter just like this, with my index finger resting on the top here, and I have full control of the throw of the sticks of the gimbal. Now, when I'm pinching here, I also have the full throw of the sticks, but I will have to lift my fingers off in order to have that full control. So it's a pretty big transmitter, and it is really nice, and it makes you fly good. I don't know why, but this transmitter just makes you fly smoother. I'm also using my QX7S, which I will bring out in a minute. So that is a quick look at the X9D Plus and comparing it to the new X9 Lite. So let's go ahead and bring out the scale, and I'm going to put it on the scale and show you how heavy these things are. All right, so the scale is zeroed out, and here is the X9D Plus. I have the battery installed in here, as you saw there, and it'll come in at 848 grams. And here is the X9 Lite, and I do have a battery in there as well, and this one is coming in at 541 grams. So as you can see, it is very light. All right, so let's take a quick comparison now with the Taranis QX7S that I use most of the time now. This is now my go-to transmitter. Before this one, my go-to transmitter was the QX7, the white one that I had. I did not like to use this one here because it came with these thumb sticks that I wasn't very fond of. I'd rather have the regular pinching sticks like that of the X9 Lite as well as the X9D Plus, and this one feels really good. It is just awesome when you are pinching as well. Very precise controls. And now I am stuck on these thumbsticks. I've been using these for some time now, and it feels really nice because it's a little bit bigger and your index finger cups right underneath of that little protrusion. So you got a little place to put your index finger instead of pinching something that is very small. Now I have something really big to pinch, and basically I'm still a thumber because my thumbs go on top of it and my index finger just kind of supports it even though I'm pinching. But while I was using the X9D Plus and the QX7, I was kind of pinching at the same time thumbing as well. So it doesn't have that little lip, so I was doing more of a pinching, and I was getting used to that. So I did not like how this one felt, but now that I've been using this one for a while, it just feels so much better now. I am able to control exactly and precisely where I want to go, and it makes it easier because when you pull it down, especially your throttle, you have a place to push down and not slip off. So that's one of the good things about these thumbsticks. Now I tried to put these thumbsticks on my X9D Plus, and they are different size, so it will not fit on here. They're not compatible. Now this one here feels nice and hefty. It has minimum amount of switches as well, kind of like the new X9 Lite, just about the same amount of switches minus the rotary dial on the left side, and only one 3-position switch over here instead of two 3-position switch here. So they got 2 here, 2 here, 1 momentary switch here, and a 2-position switch here, and 2 rotary dials and everything else. And this one has a rotary push on and off or enter button here, and the 3-page button, the mode button, and the exit button as well. So you kind of have to get used to this user interface if you are changing from these 6-button style interface. Now it feels really good. It's got a nice grip in the back. I just love this grip because when you hold on to the transmitter, it just fits perfectly in your hands, especially if you are a thumber. You got like 3 fingers holding that back rubber hand grip, and if you are a pincher, then you have this huge space up here on the shoulder to put your fingers, because there's only one switch directly in the center on top of the shoulder. So you got your place to put your middle finger, and if you want to put your second to the last finger on the rubber grip, you can, and you can also put it on top of here as well. So just a very nice grip, and the form factor is just awesome. I just love the shape of this transmitter. That's why it is one of my favorite transmitter, and I choose this one over the X9D Plus because of that. I think the grip is so much more important than if you thumb or pinch. If you got a good grip on your transmitter, you will be able to control your aircraft a lot better than if you have not discovered a perfect grip for your transmitter. And because of this QX7 and the QX7S, I have found a perfect grip for myself as I'm pinching and flying my quadcopters using these type of remotes. So let's take a closer look then on the X9 Lite. So we have a 2-position switch here on the left shoulder, and we have a momentary switch here on the right shoulder. We have a 3-position switch here, a 3-position switch here, and another 3-position switch here. Here is a rotary dial knob with a center position, and also on and off push button switch. I believe this used to be for the neck strap on the X9D Plus. So the neck strap position has become the on and off switch, and the on and off switch position now has become the neck strap position. And this neck strap is just a plastic neck strap, which is kind of looking very thin right here. If you use it a lot, and you might be able to break through that plastic. I'm not sure why they use plastic. They could have made it a little bit better by using metal. Anyway, there's the push button on and off switch, and we have 3 buttons for navigating. We have the menu button, we have the page button, and the exit button as well. And this time we have a rotary push to enter switch. So you scroll left and right, but actually you'll be scrolling up and down, and also the usual trim buttons, and that is it. And also there's a speaker grill in the front, just like that of the X9D Plus. Now on the bottom we have the DSC port. As you can see, it says DSC on there, and this will be for the trainer. And we have the micro USB port for firmware upgrades, and also the micro SD card port. And the micro SD card is not provided, so you will need to supply your own. But there is an SD card content downloadable in the Frsky product website. Here is the smart port for S-port device upgrades, like upgrading the receiver to the new access protocol firmware, and finally the earphone port. Okay, so let's see how heavy the QX7S comes in. And it is not that bad. It comes in at 701 grams. All right, so taking a look at the back of the transmitter here, we got some of that finger grip, just like that of the X9D Plus. Same style of finger grips there. And I do believe you can buy some kind of a finger, like a sponge type of deal, you can stick on the side right here for the X9D. And I think they do have that for the X9 Lite as well. So here's the smaller external module bay, and also the battery compartment. Now, it did not come with batteries, so you will have to supply your own. And it is made to take 2 18650 lithium ion batteries, which you can get from anywhere. But I think Banggood has the lowest priced batteries, and it also comes with the charger as well. But I did not have any, so, and a couple of them is on order. So I've done a little modification with a JST connector here, and let me open it up. And I'm using a 500 milliamp 2S LiPo battery. Now the operating voltage is 6 to 8.4 volts. So unlike the X9D Plus, there is no external charge port to recharge the batteries once they are installed. So you will have to remove the batteries and recharge them, regardless of using LiPo batteries, or if you are going to use those 18650 lithium ion batteries. So here I have my SPC Maker 500 milliamp 7.4 volt battery. This will provide you about, I would say, about 40 minutes of runtime on this transmitter. So I just got a JST connector here, and yeah, I know. Okay, just a JST connector, and soldered on the red wire to that side, and soldered on the black wire to the spring on this side. And all I do now is just connect this JST connector and hide the wires underneath. Just push in the battery right here and hide all the wires and close the battery bay. So I've been using my X9 Lite with some JST connected 2S LiPo battery, and it's been doing pretty good so far. So you can choose to do a mod like that, or you can choose to get those 18650 lithium ion battery. So another thing that is different with the X9 Lite than the previous models is that it now has the smaller external module bay in the back. So the old JR style module will not fit. So we now have to use the Lite versions of the external modules, like the new XJT Lite, which is coming out soon, that supports D16 as well as D8 receivers. And if you want long distance FPV, then you can take advantage of the less expensive, smaller R9M Lite external module as well. And to remove the cover, just push in and slide the cover out. All right, so when you first get this transmitter, it'll come in a box like this. So you open it up, and here's the plastic clamshell cover to protect the transmitter. And what you will get in the box are a bunch of stickers, Frsky stickers, now containing the Access firmware sticker as well. And you get the instruction pamphlet, and it is a good instruction pamphlet. Read through it. So removing the clamshell, the gimbals are protected with these gimbal protectors, which is nice. And there is the transmitter. So the basic first thing that I noticed once I got this transmitter, everything was fine. All of the spring tensions were just okay. Even the yaw spring tension was okay, but the throttle up and down tension bar was way too tight. So you got to go in there and loosen it up. I flew my first 2, 3, 4 packs of battery with the tension really tight, just right out of the box, and at times my throttle got stuck and I almost got into a crash because of that. So now I have adjusted it, so now it's nice and smooth and very easy to move up and down. So what you want to do is remove these 4 screws in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them, and I'll show you the transmitter with the back cover opened. All right, so I got the 4 screws removed, and now you are able to split the back plate from the front plate. And be careful not to pull too hard, because there is the power cables connected to the board. Now, as you can see, there is a 2-cell balance connector to power up the board. So in essence, what you could do is use a 2S battery to power up this transmitter using the balance connector instead. All you got to do is maybe drill a big hole right here so you can connect directly with the LiPo battery with the balance connector. And perhaps from the outside, once you have done that, and if the battery fits in here, you could always have the JST connector loose or the XT30 connector loose, and you can just charge up your LiPo battery without removing the battery from the compartment. But you will have to open the battery compartment door to access the connector, unless you put a hole here and stick it out or something like that, which I do, which I have done to my QX7 and the QX7S. So splitting it open here and taking a look inside. So what you want to do is loosen up these 2 tension plates. One of them is the clicker and one of them is just a friction plate. So the bottom is screwed on all the way, and that kind of holds the plate in place. So just loosen up the top a little bit so your throttle now can freely move around. And once you have done that to your liking, and if you want to loosen up or tighten up the spring tension, you can do so with the yaw spring tension. You can do so with this spring tension screw as well. Tighten it up and loosen it up as well. And on the opposite side, you can do the same thing for your pitch and roll stick as well. But the pitch and roll stick seems to be fine just right out of the box. So once you have done that, just put the back cover back, and it fits on there really nice. You don't have to fiddle around with it. Oops, be careful not to smash any wires. There you go. And put those 4 screws back in, tighten it up, and you are good to go. Okay, so hand gripping the new Frsky Taranis X9 Lite feels really nice. The transmitter is a lot smaller than the original X9D Plus. So when you're holding this transmitter, and if you are pinching, At first, a couple of flights that I've had, I thought that the sticks were a little bit too long or a little bit too tall for the size of the transmitter. But after about a couple of batteries in, it feels really nice. Now, I am not complaining about the sticks being too tall. And if you want it even taller, you can go ahead and unscrew it and adjust it to your liking. What I really like about this transmitter is the size, slightly smaller than the original X9D Plus. So when you grip it, the gimbals have a full range of motion, and I am pinching. I don't have to take my hand off or my other supporting fingers off to have the full range of throw on these gimbal sticks. I can leave my middle finger on the shoulder and still have a complete control of the whole gimbal. And also, because there's just one switch on the top on the shoulder, right about in the center, so you do have a little bit of room to put a finger right there, but there's this little groove, and on the X9D Plus there is a switch right here. See that? There is an actual switch in that spot. So on this one, the X9 Lite, it doesn't have one. So there's a nice little spot where you can put your finger, as I've kind of demonstrated on my hands-on flight test video. So I'll leave my middle fingers right up here, and I can also leave my second to the last finger right inside of that groove, which makes a nice little spot for your finger. So you can have that little opposing thumb control. So you are holding and pressing down on your sticks with your thumb, and you have that opposing control for your thumb. So everything is nice and balanced out on this transmitter. Really, really nice, very light, feels really nice in the hands, and all of the controls are self-explanatory on this thing. If you already have tried the X9D Plus or the Taranis QX7S, the buttons are really easy, and this now the dial, push button, enter switch is really, really easy to use. So I really like this transmitter. It feels really, really nice in the hands, and right off the bat on my first flight, I was already accustomed to it. I didn't need to make an effort to feel comfortable holding this transmitter. All right, so to power up the transmitter, just hold down the on and off switch for a few seconds, and it'll get you into the software program, and it is running the OpenTX operating system right out of the box. So it is a familiar one, and it is the same as the other FrSky transmitters that are running the OpenTX firmware, like the QX7S as well as the X9D Plus. Now it'll take you into the initial page here showing you the model that you have already selected, and if you short press the menu button, it'll take you into the model selections page, in which I only have one model set up, and you can scroll up and down and choose the model that you want by depressing the rotary dial. But I am already chosen model 1, and that is the only one I have. And now you can go ahead and page over to the setups page, and you can set your timer here, and everything else is basically the same thing. So if you go down, it is easier to go up and go to the bottom of this page and go up. Here's the internal radio, and the mode is ISRM, channel range 1 to 16. RX number is 1. Failsafe is not set. I should actually set it to no pulses. Okay, and here is the module. You'll need to register a receiver, and then you can go ahead and bind the receiver. So it's a two-step procedure, which I'll go over in a minute. And if you go down, there's the external RF that we are used to, and it goes up to the top of the setups page. Page over, there's the heli setup, flight modes, inputs, mixer, outputs, curves, logical switches, special functions, telemetry page, display page, and it'll take you back to the model selection page. Exit out of there. long pressing on the menu button, it'll take you into the radio setup, just like your other OpenTX software transmitters. And you can page over SD card. This is where you update the firmware. Long press the page button, it'll take you backwards. So here is the firmware that I've already downloaded, the RXSR access firmware. Also, I've downloaded the XM access firmware as well. It is available in the Frsky website, which I have already used to flash my RXSR receiver. And if you have already seen my hands-on flight demo, I'm flying a quadcopter with the RXSR receiver with this transmitter. So radio setup, SD card, tools page, global functions page, trainer page, the hardware page, and the version page, in which you can see that we are running OpenTX version 2.3.0 X9 Lite version. Page over and it'll take you back into the radio setup. And also from here you can page over and scan your switches and values. And to turn it off, just hold the power button down for about a few seconds and it powers off. All right, so I've downloaded the access protocol firmware for the RXSR receiver from the Frsky website and flashed my RXSR receiver. Now, the flashing process is just about the same as that of the XM or the XM Plus receiver when flashing the RSSI firmware to them. The only difference was that I had to use the S port wire instead of the S bus wire, and the command to flash was not the flash external module but the flash S port command instead. So it took a little while to flash it, maybe 4 or 5 times longer than the time to flash the XM or the XM Plus receiver with the RSSI firmware. So I had another connector for the receiver, the wiring harness. So what I did was I left my RXSR receiver on the quadcopter, which is double-sided sticky taped onto it. I just removed the connector to it and I plugged this connector in its place to flash the receiver. So this wiring harness has the black wire and it has the red 5-volt wire as well as the yellow S port wire, and the next one is the S bus wire, and the next white one is the S bus in if you are into attaching another receiver. So normally we will flash an external device like a receiver using the S bus wire, but what you need to do is use the S port wire. And so I have a servo connector here with 3 wires. So I connected the black wire to the black, red wire to the red, and the signal wire to the S port wire. And I proceeded to flash the receiver. So you will stick this in here to flash external devices and power up the transmitter. I'm just going to simulate here. Power up the transmitter.
Welcome to OpenTX.
And once you are in, you're going to long press the menu button and go into the radio setup. You're going to page over to the SD card and you are going to go into the firmware folder and you are going to go in there. And here I have already downloaded the firmware for the RXSR access protocol firmware with the S port. So you're going to long press it and see here where it says flash S port. That's what you're going to hit once you are ready to flash instead of using the flash external module. So you're going to go ahead and hit flash S port and the progress bar will appear as well as the receiver will start flashing little lights back and forth. And once the receiver is flashed with the new access firmware, then it can be bound to the transmitter. And also the binding process is now a 2-step procedure. Now the Frsky YouTube channel has a video showing how to bind a receiver using the X Lite Pro, but it is the same procedure as for this transmitter. All right, so let me go ahead and demonstrate how to bind the RXSR receiver to the new Frsky Taranis X9 Lite. So I have the quadcopter ready to go with the RXSR receiver. I have it connected to my Toolkit RC's battery charger, which also does an external power output, and that is how I'm going to power up the quadcopter to put it in a binding mode. So what we are going to do is go into the setups page here. Let me go back. So there's the setups page. I'm just going to scroll up, and you can bind receiver number 1, 2, or 3 to the same model, and just keep going up. And there's the internal RF. So let me go down now. Okay, so where it says module and where it says register, that is where you are going to go first. So you're going to hit enter, and what it's going to do is it's looking for a receiver. This is kind of like the binding process of the other transmitter. So what you're going to do is hold down the bind button on the receiver, power the receiver up. That'll put the receiver into a binding mode. And now, as you can see, the RX has appeared. It says RXSR. It has found it. So go ahead and hit enter. And it says registration OK. Hit OK. Now the RXSR receiver has been registered into that model. So I'm going to go ahead and power off the receiver now. And I'm going to scroll down to bind the receiver. So I'm going to hit bind, and now it is waiting for the receiver. So this is a two-step binding procedure. So what I'm going to do now is you don't have to hold down the bind button anymore. You've already done the registration process. So I'm going to power up the quadcopter, and at the time it's going to power up the receiver, powering it up. And now it has automatically searched and found the RXSR receiver because it has powered up. And just go ahead and hit that and bind successful. And you hit it. See, now we have RXSR on receiver number 1. Okay, so once the receiver is bound and you have placed it in a quadcopter, you can go ahead and set up everything else like your switches and stuff and go into Betaflight and configure everything to make sure it is working correctly and you are good to go. So who is this transmitter for? Now, I, for one, already have an X9D Plus and the QX7S and a slew of jumper remote controls, and all or most of my quadcopters are sporting the XM or the XM Plus, XSR or the RXSR receivers. And the ones that have the Spectrum or FlySky receivers, I have my jumper remotes. So if you are like me and already have a Taranis and quadcopters with the old ACCSD protocol receivers, I don't see to make any changes. I don't need to purchase this Frsky Taranis X9 Lite transmitter unless in the future there is a clear benefit to use the access protocol. And what it is looking like is that Frsky is slowly going to be transitioning into the access protocol and furthering itself from the ACCSD protocol. Perhaps one day we are not going to have any ACCSD protocol anymore, and we are only going to be faced with the access protocol. So this new access protocol supports 24 full range channels. It has an increased baud rate and lower latency, wireless binding, updates and configuration, and a slew of other new features. It also has an anti-interference and hijack system. You can read all about it in the Access tab in the Frsky website for your pleasure. And by the way, looking at the comparison list on the product page, looks like the X9D Plus and the QX7 or the QX7S will be able to use the new Access firmware as well. So if you aren't already using the Frsky ecosystem and want to get into using the Frsky products and want to buy something cheaper than the QX7, which I think is just about the most cost-effective Frsky transmitter there is, the X9 Lite now could be an option for you. So that is it for now for this review, a quick look and demonstration of the new Frsky Taranis X9 Lite. Now, I've already done a hands-on demo. I'll leave a link to it right up here as well as down below in the video description. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next time.